Welcome to our Road to 100,000 Part 2.
Two.
Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. My name is Melinda and this is my shiplap loving husband Adine, and we are back today to go over the next 3 things that we think are important when you're starting out a business, specifically an eBay business.
Yeah, well, welcome back and welcome if you're brand new to our channel. Last time we covered 3 topics, and if you're interested in that video, we'll link it down below. We covered setting goals, sacrifice, and patience. And we wanted to just continue the series. This is going to be part 2 out of 3, and talk about the next 3 subjects in this video.
So the first thing that we wanted to talk about and cover in this video is you should really get familiar with basic accounting. And we're talking basic accounting before you jump into a business. You're going to need to know what your cost of doing business is. That means your cost of goods. And you have to remember that eBay and other platforms that you're selling on, minus Facebook Marketplace, will take out fees. And then, of course, if you include free shipping, that has to be taken into consideration too. So you really have to figure out what you're actually going to put in your pocket, which seems like common sense, but it's something that some people struggle with. It can be pretty daunting to get everything that you have listed into a format that makes sense to you.
Yeah, and we find it a little bit shocking how many times we've discovered that other resellers on Instagram and on YouTube are actually not doing their accounting correctly or not at all. And some of them are full-time, that's their full-time income. And it's kind of scary to tell you the truth. To me, that's a little bit wild. If I have to feed my family as the sole provider, for example, and I'm not sure what my actual net income is, it's kind of strange. So like Mona said, we're talking about the fundamentals of accounting. We're not talking about anything college level.
Right.
And you can get a lot of these resources for free. And we would really recommend that you just YouTube fundamental accounting for small business or for resale or whatever it may be to start.
Yeah, and there's sometimes websites that will offer you basics in Excel for free and things like that. Right now, we just use Excel. We just use a spreadsheet, and it's nothing complicated. We don't have any crazy formulas on there. It's probably the easiest, most basic way you can keep track of your inventory as a start if you're starting out.
Yeah, and we did a video, or I did a video, a live stream of how to utilize the spreadsheet that we use. That's still available. If you guys want to, you can always email me. I'll put my email in the description below as well. I'll send that basic template out so you can start using it, and you can watch that video, and I explain in pretty good detail how all those functions work, and a lot of it is basic. So let's talk about some of the basic terms that, even though it's fundamental, that you need to be an expert in. So let's talk about gross sales, right? So what do we mean by gross sale?
Gross sale is what the item sells for. It's what they're paying, the customer is paying, that you're going to see the cha-ching for. So if you list something for $100 and it sells, $100 is your gross sales.
Right.
To get net, you're then going to have to take your costs out.
Yeah, and it all depends too. Like if you're offering free shipping on an item that you have listed for $100, that's going to be $100 with free shipping. You're not going to get taxed on $100, right? And you didn't make $100, so you really have to get good at those basics. So gross sale of 100, what did it cost you? That's typically referred to of the cost of goods. The net profit is then going to equal, right? Gross minus your cost of goods minus associated fees minus shipping costs. And that's going to give you a net profit that's then taxable against deductions that you have on your business.
Yeah, and there are just so many other categories and intricacies from there. We're not CPAs, we don't give tax advice, and we're not financial advisors either. We're 2 people who became debt-free, but we can't give any specific advice.
And that's where you have to contact a professional, seek out a CPA. Especially if you're doing this full-time, you should be paying a CPA roughly $300 to $600 a year to prepare your taxes and work with you. But just knowing what you're actually making off of a sale is so important. And again, I'm still a little bit in shock how many people are not doing this. So please do yourself a favor and start that today. If you just invest about 15 minutes a day for a month watching YouTube videos about accounting and basic Excel, you're gonna be all set. You can do this all by yourself, and honestly, once you get it going, it's really not that complicated, and it should only take a couple minutes a day of your time.
Right.
So this leads right into the next subject we want to talk about in this video, which is knowing what you're worth, or knowing what your time is worth. And again, this is one that where the people really struggled. And I'll just start off this conversation between us with the challenge, which is you are worth more than somebody's paying you currently. Think about that. If you're making $10, $12, $15, $20 an hour, you're worth far more than that, especially in the resale business.
And if you're thinking about leaving a job, you want to know that you're going to be leaving it and it's going to be worthwhile. So if you're making $10 an hour, you want to make sure that you're going to get paid more than $10 an hour running your own business, because your $10 an hour job might cover taxes and Social Security and things like that. If you're only paying yourself $10 an hour reselling, you're cutting yourself very short because you are self-paying for all those other things.
Right. Yeah, and this is like knowing what you're worth and increasing your worth, right? Your hourly wage. It's extremely important, and it's going to decide what items you're picking up and what items you're passing on. Because once you really get into this and once you start handling a couple thousand items, you're gonna see what it actually takes to get these things ready for the market and also ready to be shipped out.
And I would say that's pretty much how we built our business model, is we almost fell into higher profit items because we valued our time so much that we said picking up something that's only going to make us $10 isn't worth it.
Right.
We have a lot of other things going on. So every time that we heard that cha-ching from eBay, we wanted to feel confident that we were putting $30 into our bank account. So that's about $30 net that we wanted to be making.
Yeah, and that's the, like, there's so many examples of us doing it the wrong way. I'll share one. One of them was I found this listing for these, they're CD sleeves, CD paper sleeves, and someone had 20 packs for $10, so 20 cents each. And I jumped all over it because I saw sales comps for about $5 or $6 per case. But I was so fresh into this that, you know, I jumped the gun. It took me an hour and 20-minute round trip, and we've sold all of them. They took a long time to sell, but we were only making a net profit of about $2.50 per each, right? So we still made money, but that hour and 20 minutes that I took just to drive could have been definitely used to make a lot more money doing something else.
And actually, before COVID hit, we were doing a lot of Facebook Marketplace pickups after work, and it got to the point where we both just said, you know what, we're not going to do this unless this is going to be like a really big ticket item, because the time it just ate up. Leaving work at 5, battling traffic, getting home, then maybe one partner has missed dinner, maybe one hasn't seen the kid yet. It was just too much, and we said this isn't worth our time at all. Yeah,
so now when we're doing these Facebook deals, we're looking at either a bulk deal where we have, you know, 5, 6, 10, 15 items, or something like Melinda said that's really worth our time going and driving to pick it up. We have many examples of how we failed in this, but we really realized after we've done it so many times. I remember one specifically, I'll give you another example. She found this awesome vintage machine. It was some sort of small house appliance for $3, and it was selling for like 40. But by the time I got to it and got back, it was like an hour and 20, hour 30 minutes, you know, hour and a half. So it just wasn't worth it. I think it's really important that when you look at reselling, that you really aim for making a lot more money than you're currently making. And that's something really just to keep in mind.
If you've followed us for any amount of time, you know that we run a small but expensive store. And we got there through making a lot of the mistakes that we talked about, but it is so much easier and it is so much more efficient now than it was at the beginning, because we just value ourselves so much more. And then our third one for this video is to keep an open mind. And that can apply to a couple different things. One question that we sometimes get is, which niche should I do? Or we hear that you want to get started, but you don't know what niche to do, what you're going to be good at. And the thing is, you're really not going to know until you start. We live in a medium-sized city, so that means there's lots of different categories available to us. But we also seem to find the same ones over and over again that we sell the most of,
Right.
like pots and pans, like shoes, jeans, jeans of a certain brand, those types of products that we sell over and over and over again. Somebody else might have a different demographic around them.
Right.
One of our reseller friends, Enfisa, she lives in Alaska, so she has a lot of outerwear that she obviously finds in thrift stores and resells. That fits her. She has a replenishable product in that. So when you're starting, I wouldn't say you have to know right away what you want to sell. And that's going to sort of back you into a corner too. Because if you go in and you say, well, I'm only going to sell electronics because they make the most money and that's worth my time. But then come to find out, you're not able to find a lot of pre-owned electronics
Right.
where you live for a price that's going to allow you a good profit margin. So you're going to have to keep an open mind and be open to selling other things.
And to piggyback of what Melinda is saying, of course, there's a business model of finding a manufacturer and having replenishable goods that just you know have multi-quantity listings, which is ideal if you go that route. What we're talking about is really finding replenishable goods that are relatively the same thing or the same category. So we've become really good at finding those, you know, those areas: pots and pans, denim, shoes, vintage electronics. We've become really good at finding the ones that sell for a really high profit margin in our area, and we've taken advantage of the plenty of, you know, thrift stores in our area and a lot of the Facebook Marketplace deals that we find constantly. But it also changes how we search for things. We search Emerald, Magnolite, you know, Buckle, Monster High, for example. So those, you know, if you search enough on Facebook Marketplace, the system learns what you're searching for. It's going to pop those things up for you. So sometimes we don't even have to search. It's already recommending those categories. But you know, you can choose. You can be like Rinzi. If you're not familiar with Rinzi, they're a shoe reseller out of, is it Maine? I think it's Maine. They just do shoes, which is perfectly fine. That works for them. They have ways to source shoes, and they always have bags and bags of inventory to process. That works well for them. They might not work well for you. It does not work well for us. There's a lot of ways to tailor this business to you, which is one really awesome part of selling online. It all depends on where you live. So for example, if you live in Alaska, shipping is going to cost a lot of money. So you're probably not going to be shipping out 27-inch bulky TVs or DVD VCR combo units. You're going to focus on clothing. If you live in Canada, for example, shipping rates from Canada to the United States are really expensive. So you're probably not going to be sending a lot of larger items. You need to focus on maybe baseball cards, collectibles, small things. We live in an area that's surrounded by colleges and universities, so one thing that we're constantly finding on Facebook Marketplace are graphing calculators. And we know on average we're making about a $25 net profit each time we sell one of those. So we just added it to the list of items that we look for in our area. So figure out what's readily available in your area. If you're, you know, in the desert, I don't know, what do they have in the desert compared to what they have, you know, north, west, east, central United States. It all just depends, you know.
Yeah, and another thing to touch on what Adina's saying is maybe you're going to have to travel a little bit to find sourceable goods. So you might have to be open to doing a little bit more traveling to get the items that you need to fill your store.
Yeah, for sure. So in recap of keeping an open mind, you know, start off by tasting different types of items to resell. May it be children's clothing or collectibles or coins or whatever it may be, you know, pet accessories, and then start learning those markets and those name brands, and then, you know, transition into like, okay, what am I able to find continuously here that I don't mind doing? Like, if you don't like cleaning pots and pans, like, don't go chasing pots and pans. If you don't like testing electronics, don't go after electronics. Find things that you're comfortable with. But, you know, at the same time as I say that, as you get more and more uncomfortable and you keep that open mind, that's where you might be raising your net average or your net profit average over time.
So that concludes our 3 tips for this video. We are going to do a third one with 3 more tips. So stay tuned for that. Until then, have a great night.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. It all depends. We live in an area that has a lot of faculties.
Sometimes it depends on the person how much.
What's a faculty?
Lots
of faculty.
Professors. So much reserved parking for faculty and staff. Or were you saying like, oh, he has all his faculties, or like he's with it mentally?
Are you done?
Okay. Give me a minute.
All right. Three.
Okay, good.
So we live in an area that has a lot of universities and colleges. So one thing that